everyone. Welcome to the Humanize EDU podcast. I'm Sandy Herrera. My sister, Dr. Stacy Herrera, and I are on a mission to bring the human back to the center of education.
Through our authentic, human-centered conversations, we hope to inspire you to take ownership of your life, mental well-being, and culture transformation journey.
Our conversations range from the wild and windy roads our guests have navigated throughout their careers, to the inspiring stories of overcoming the myriad of challenges within education today.
We hope you'll join us as we bring on exceptional guests who are creating a ripple of impact within the world of education, making a difference in the lives of students and staff every day.
Barry, I am so grateful for you as a human and grateful for your time in answering these questions with me and really kind of talking through the mental health crisis that we're facing in our schools. And I would just love to hear your real world frontline, what it's like in your world. So I'm just going to ask you a few questions, answer whatever comes up for you, no right or wrong answers. But they're really powerful questions that are intentionally phrased this way for us to get to the heart of the issue, because I know that there's a lot of conversations right now that are surface level about the mental health crisis in our schools. And I truly believe that this is the key to solving the mental health crisis in our world if we can actually solve it in our schools. And so it's something, as you know, that I'm super passionate about. So the first question I want to ask you is for you to just share your role and your current job title, where you're at.
Okay, well, I'm at a elementary school. I'm a third grade teacher, but I'm also I'm working with my admin to bring this training that I'm receiving, becoming a culture and wellbeing coach, to our school. So we have a situation where our students are struggling right now. Attendance is an issue, engagement, feeling a connection, and that's mirrored as well with the staff. And so I'm trying to bring this training I'm receiving back to the school to improve for everyone that touches our campus.
Love it. And I'm so honored that you chose to work with us, and the work that you're doing in this year-long certification in real time. Like, you're really making change and making headways. And I know sometimes it feels like it's a really slow moving uphill navigation, and yet you're doing it. So I'm grateful that you're part of the work that we're doing in the world. So I want to ask you kind of an overall question. Do you believe in general that schools are doing enough to address the root causes of mental health issues, or are they simply managing symptoms, not systems, symptoms, and why?
Oh, I definitely do feel they're managing symptoms, and what got me interested at first in your work when I took that humanizing education PD with you and your sister is, for example, at my school, they're managing the symptoms of the students. Staff and to a large extent families are not even part of the equation. And to me, you're with that, you're plugging one little hole in the dike while the dike's being overtopped everywhere else, and it just isn't working. So in answer to your question, yes, we're just managing symptoms. And I think there was a second part to your question that I have.
Yeah.
Totally
Are they doing enough to address the root causes of mental health issues?
No, not at all. more so, there's an attempt with the students, but even then, the amount of resources being used to try to do that is the need far exceeds what they're. We have one counselor and 420 students, and 2 days ago my students got their monthly 30-minute lesson with her about peace and positivity, and the need's greater than that.
Yeah, yeah. So when you think about the policies, the mental health policies that are in place, are they truly impactful, or are they a box ticking exercise?
Yeah, they're kicking the box down the road.
Mm,
Um, and despite Herculean efforts by, say, our counselor, but she's one person, and the needs are so great, and so what ends up happening is um, there's sort of triage going on, where students with the highest needs are uh, they're trying to address that, but others that are suffering in silence, let's say, are um, I won't say ignored, but um, their needs are not being met. And then again, um, the district preaches self-care for teachers, and then, oh, and by next Friday you need to have this done. So
yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. If you were to have the resources and the authority, what specific initiative would you implement to address the mental health crisis in our schools?
to me, it would have to be a multi-pronged
Okay.
approach. Um, we cannot hire a social worker at our school because nobody is willing to do that essential and incredibly difficult work for the 26,000 or whatever it is they're paying per year.
Mm.
Um, so we have been without a social worker for 3 years. Um, we do have a community liaison that is a lot of work. Um, but to me, at a school our size, we should literally have the full-time counselor, full-time social worker, full-time um, community liaison with support from the district, um, so that they are not coming into a school and then casting about for resources to bring in to the school. And so the district talks about it, and I've heard it talked about in education circles, but this idea of wraparound services. Um, you know, if you just have one portion of this wall wrapping around the student, then that's not wraparound,
Right.
and that's essentially what's happening. And so, um, as opposed to mental health of all stakeholders being um, considered something extra, or an idea, um, with shrinking budgets and everything else, it needs to be made a priority and funded so that it can be effective and become a reality. as opposed to, well, wouldn't it be nice?
Why do you believe the mental health focus is critical right now, as I'm hearing you describe?
A myriad of reasons. With the students, there really is a disconnect, to me, between um, what their home lives are like, and the way um, school is arranged. Um, Me personally, I'm having a hard time um, with engagement in my class because um, students go home and they are plugged in 24/7. Um, I've got students staying up until in third grade, staying up until 1, 2 o'clock in the night playing, um, Call of Duty, and they come in and they're not ready to learn. Then the number of hats a typical teacher wears in a given day or week, um, it, it is insane, and it's not sustainable. Um, every time a new initiative comes out, um, okay, we want you to do this, but we're not going to take any of those other things off your plate to make room for this. Um, it's I it, Yeah, that's a very difficult question because again, there are just so many things that tie into it. The students are really having problems now um, with socialization because they go home, they don't play with friends because they're not allowed outside because of potential or perceived dangers. You know, they may game with a friend online in a virtual environment, but um, and so the drama that creates at school when you've got a classroom of 20 students and um, and they don't have the skills to just navigate just everyday minute to minute dramas. I've had students break down in tears because someone looked at them, um, and having, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a behavior specialist, um, and so I'm struggling right now, and it seems to be the needs are getting ever greater, and so you know kids are different now than they were just 4 years ago.
Yeah, yeah, they are for sure. One of the things that we talk about at Humanize EDU is proactively solving this mental health crisis. And when you get proactive, it's not going to happen tomorrow. Yet, if we never take the time to get proactive, we're never going to get there, right? At some point, you got to start getting proactive in order to have proactive be the norm. And one of the things we talk about a lot, and I'd love your thoughts and opinions on it, is that the key to solving the mental health crisis in our schools is putting teachers, educators first. the staff, the adults within our schools first, and focusing on their mental well-being, their resiliency, their sense of hope, equipping them with essential conversation tools and strategies to be able to have conscious, productive conversations in a healthy way, not only within themselves, but with their colleagues, with their students, so that the culture, the energy that is the working and learning environment is filled from that place of healthy, productive, conscious conversation versus reactionary survival ones that I'm hearing you describe right now. So I'd love your thoughts on how you believe that might really make a difference in the long run.
Well, it would, because we are a 100% reactive now. And I can't take credit for this, and I don't know where I heard it, but a teacher's working environment is the student's learning environment. And so if those teachers aren't feeling seen, valued, and heard and supported, they're digging deep to try to offer that to the students. And which is why teachers are burning out so often and so quickly. And, the statistic of the number of teachers that leave the profession within the first 5 years has increased, and it was never good to begin with, which is leading to a national teacher shortage. And so, yes, if being proactive, working with the staff, and then enabling them or providing them with the supports they need to then be their best authentic selves with the students, to me would be a great first step and being proactive. Something beyond, well, remember your why, which is almost a curse word to me now. So
Yeah, because you know your why.
Because your statement making being teacher centered, making teachers first, is exactly the opposite. Because I hear frequently, well, we do what's best for kids. Okay, but is it sustainable? What's best for kids, given the resources we have. It's the thing. I had a pre-conference meeting. I'm being observed tomorrow, and we went through my lesson and great suggestions for improving it. And part of me was there thinking, like, okay, we spent half an hour for a 45-minute lesson. I can't do that. I can't spend, another 20 hours to improve lessons that I'm going to be teaching for, 30 hours a week. It doesn't, the math doesn't math.
Yeah.
And so, I know there is room for improvement, but how sustainable is it?
Yeah. We've got to take a step back and look at that proactive sustainability, right? And how we do that together as human beings first. So, Barry, one last question. We are where we are, right? We know what the challenge is. how do you begin? What have you chosen to do to feel a sense of hope, to keep going, to keep your resilient fire burning, right? To get up every day and continue to make a difference, to work towards making a bigger difference. Like, what's step one? What have you decided your step one is?
So some of my core values are service and legacy and connection. And when you combine those, I want to move beyond just my classroom. I want to make sure that when I leave, the school is better than how it was when I arrived. Um, and I can't do that in a silo. And so, um, my step one is just modeling what I want to see.
Yeah.
And um, um, I get told all the time, "You're so nice." And and I mean, it's nice to hear, but it it kind of bothers me on some level, in the sense that, have we gotten to this point where I do something because I care for you and I'm able to do it, that warrants a comment because it's so infrequently done?
Yeah.
And so I don't want to live in a world where, my 21 years of experience, if you ask me a question, I can guide you, give you an answer, point you to some resources,
Mhm.
as opposed to somebody spending 2 hours trying to figure that out on their own. There really is no great lift for me, and it's saving you so much. And, oh, you're so nice. I thought we were colleagues.
That's what we do, right? That's what we do. Barry, thank you so much. My takeaway from this conversation is hearing you say, if we all show up to be kind, to be nice, to do things for each other because we're colleagues, because we're all rowing in the same direction. We all want what's best for kids. And what is best for kids is healthy, aligned, nice educators who love working together and creating working and learning environments that, where we all show up and say, this is how we do things here because we designed it that way, allows us to proactively solve this mental health crisis. And Barry, I'm grateful that you are becoming a culture and well-being coach with us. I am grateful for the tireless work that you are doing daily as a third grade teacher, as well as the work that you're doing above and beyond that to be a leader and a role model in your school and put together a culture leadership team, embark on, edgy, uncomfortable, vulnerable conversations with your leadership in order to move the needle forward. You are doing the work, and it doesn't have immediate payoffs, but it definitely pays dividends in the long run. And so hang on to those micro moments, Barry, because you're doing it. You're doing the work.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks, Barry, so much. Thanks everyone for listening in, and keep doing the good work you are all doing as well.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Humanize EDU podcast. I'm Sandy Herrera. My sister, Dr. Stacy Herrera, and I are on a mission to bring the human back to the center of education.
Through our authentic, human-centered conversations, we hope to inspire you to take ownership of your life, mental well-being, and culture transformation journey.
Our conversations range from the wild and windy roads our guests have navigated throughout their careers, to the inspiring stories of overcoming the myriad of challenges within education today.
We hope you'll join us as we bring on exceptional guests who are creating a ripple of impact within the world of education, making a difference in the lives of students and staff every day.
Welcome, everybody. I don't know if that worked either. Okay, so
Here's the plan.
yes,
We're going to talk about education today.
okay.
And we're going to talk about what we're seeing in education and really how long we've been looking at education and helping those in learning environments and
Great.
what's that perspective for us.
So many years looking at the field of education from having small children,
Being a student.
being a student, started there, right? The full immersion experience, and then into our professions at this point, and serving educators and students and families to get the most out of the system of education.
Definitely.
And the last 4 years, we were just joking about this, there's a lot of us that have been, we were on Zoom for a period of time, some of us are still on Zoom the majority of the time. There's just this weird world that's mixing between the virtual space and the in-person space, and how are we navigating all of that as, looking towards the future of education. But I think kind of starting with where we've come from and why we're so passionate about this work that we get to do. Mm-hmm. There's so many layers to my level of passion for this work that started with my deep-rooted mommy fire to then walking out of the school that I was volunteering in one day saying, I can't not do this work. And, I know yours stems from a similar place.
I've been volunteering in the classroom from an early age. I was pulled in as a 5th and 6th grader to help kindergartners and always knew that I wanted to be in education and once thought I wanted to be a teacher until I actually taught at an elementary school while I was in Russia. But recognizing that without substantial training on classroom management, it's really hard to teach. And so knowing that the behaviors and how one feels in the classroom can really get in the way of learning. And so to recognizing that when I wanted to go back to school and I really understand how the brain works and how children learn and how I could best support them in more of a one-on-one setting as opposed to being up in front of the classroom. And as a school psychologist, being trained and watching and talking with educators and listening to students and recognizing that our educational system is not serving everyone. And we're in this kind of messy middle space before we get to these individualized learning pathways that I think will really ignite that inner love of learning for everyone.
I love seeing that future vision and knowing what's coming and what's possible is what keeps me doing this work on the days when it's really hard. On the days when I'm working with a team of educators and I hear their stories and I feel their struggle and I feel that messy middleness of this is just too much, and having the mass exodus of teacher attrition hurts my heart. And I know because every individual that I talk to that's left their profession is like, yeah, I feel better, but a piece of me is missing in not being able to serve students. And so being able to again, stay future focused with the work that we're doing, but also we're in the trenches with the families and the students and the educators, guiding and coaching and mentoring and really getting us to this place where it's like we can take our power back. We can actually pull our shoulders out of our ears and get to this place where we're going to create the future of education with the human at the center.
Yes.
And we're not going to lose that because we can't not do this work. And I know that there's many like us that we're going to bring into this podcast as well.
Agreed. That's my real hope for this podcast, is that we have guests who are able to really tell the story around how things are going well,
Right.
and what is working for individuals, individual classrooms, individual educators, individual schools, districts that are doing really cool, innovative work to really foster that connection, that
So much
relationship
is happening, yeah.
that is so vital to creating psychologically safe spaces and supporting the love of learning for everyone in the building. And to find those individuals, I'm really excited about that piece, so that we can be real and raw about what is currently happening. Yes, we're not going to gloss over that, but it gives us a chance to say, okay, what goodness can we take from all of the disruption in education, and what can we move forward with? Because I think not only educators but parents are having more and more choice and opportunity to choose those individual learning pathways for their children. It can be so overwhelming. Where do you start?
Yeah, how do you choose? How do you choose? And even, when our kids were going through school and being able to have conversations with Hunter, like, hey bud, like, I recognize the system of education is not serving you, and which teachers are you connecting with, and how can he use his natural brain learned strength to actually succeed within the current system, and trying to teach and coach him along those skills and those strategies, and at the same time saying, I recognize that the system isn't serving you, so what are our other options, and how can we got to the place where it was like, how can we have you graduate early? Like, let's accelerate this in a way where he could actually exit high school 6 months early. I didn't know the pandemic was coming, but that was good timing for him to not have to navigate that as well when he was already struggling. And so just having parents know that they have a voice and that they have choices, and guiding them. So there's so many different facets that I'm excited about what we're doing and what we're building together. And like, I don't know that we would have come together had we not kind of taken our own independent journeys to now be where we're at personally and professionally. Do you want to chat a little bit about that winding, crazy road of
My focus has always been on children, right? Everything that I've invested in, whether it be my own or through volunteerism or through my professional endeavors, has been focused on children and helping them find that inner spark and that love of themselves and their environments and what they're capable of. And to, I think, get to a place to recognize that it's not only supporting the students in the building, it's supporting the educators that are serving those students. And oftentimes I was pulled into consultations with teachers and trying to provide wisdom, but it wasn't until that November when I approached the principal at Imagine School at Northport, Alicia, and I said, so listen, my sister's coming into town. She does this really cool culture transformation work. And I just think, we've done some great work with the students, but maybe the teachers need some support. And to see how, what are we in the fifth, sixth?
Something like that. Yeah, that was, I think we're in 6. We're going into 6 now.
Yes. So now that we're in the 6th year, and recognizing that by supporting everyone holistically and creating this culture of well-being within the school setting, like, it's an amazing way to bring our passions together. And I'll let you speak a little bit.
Yeah, I'm so grateful for that introduction, because it has blossomed and really allowed my work to accelerate working with such dynamic educators at that school and everywhere, and just really expanded my scope of what's possible, and really having them dream with me into what they've created as well. But really starting with the science of happiness with them and introducing that to them, and having them really think about the pillars and where each segment of their school community was in terms of the science of happiness and each of the 5 pillars, through the lens of their support professionals, through the lens of their staff, through the lens of their families, their students, and them as administrators. And then really getting to that place where we got some really good momentum in working with their culture. And I really appreciated you being in all of those trainings. It actually surprised me, by the way, because it wasn't designed on my side. to have you present. I absolutely welcomed and loved having you there. And it allowed for, I think, the depth of our conversations to grow in how our work really meshes well together when we look at the whole system. And the piece of my culture work that I've always included was having the students establish their own individual core values and then having those become part of the common language. But a lot of my work really focuses on the adults in the building and how the leadership teams, create these stable, unified teams within themselves. Because if the leadership team is not consistent and unified, then nothing else is working within the school. So being able to be in that space and then watching the results because of our work independently and then how we crossed over in some of those leadership meetings, the sustainability of it that we witnessed as this elementary charter school was really navigating through the highs and lows of education, and then we tackled the pandemic with them, and then a major hurricane hit the area, and then it was like one thing after another, and their culture has just stayed so strong and solid. And even through attrition and some changes in leadership and their attraction of good humans has created this trust and this flow of resources and opportunities and families who are like, I'm in with you guys, what do you need? And it's just been really beautiful to see, and I know that on your side you've seen some really massive gains in their students too.
Well, the ripple of impact, right? Once you engage families and that it becomes this kind of circle of trust around each individual student, it's easier to have conversations about, my student's really struggling in this class, and there's no one to blame. Let's rally around the student. Let's really figure out where the skill deficit is. So it moves from this, that student is behaving badly. Right. Let's remove them, to that student is behaving in such a way that's communicating to us that we need to provide different training or provide teaching around the skill that's missing. Like what is getting in the way of that student being successful in that classroom? And for the teachers to lean all in and not only learn how to communicate with their students so that their students felt safer in their classrooms, but then for some of them to come to me and say, I've done my own kind of self-exploration, and the way that you were querying me to help this one student really allowed me to kind of reflect on my own upbringing, like my own way of managing and navigating difficulties in life, and to really wrap around them as a whole. Because once an adult can see how they themselves benefit from the communication training, the relationship building, then they're better able to shift and see the perspective of the student, and then to infuse in that student, or at least give them a bird's eye view of this is what it could look like. If you were able to shift this behavior, how would that feel? Or if you're able to sit and attend more in the classroom, what could you be learning? And how could we reward you for loving learning? Because that makes the teacher's job so much easier.
Exactly. When you have students who are excited to be there and excited to learn and absorb, and you have that mutual respect and you're there for the same purpose. So really kind of witnessing that, and kind of back to our original thought of why we went down this conversation, is the power of really putting our work together from a school psychologist perspective and from culture transformation perspective. And when we married them, and the sustainability over the last 6 years has allowed us to really go, why are we not partnering in all schools? Why are we not? And we didn't have a good reason to not, other than the logistics of where we both live. And so we're making that work and figuring it out and navigating and building a virtual team, and it's really coming together beautiful. I'm super excited to see where we're going to grow to be able to impact more schools.
Yeah, to think that it started, a little bit in Nevada and a little bit in Florida, and now that it's branching, and now that we're talking to global partners, and just that ability to impact education in a really positive way that gives everyone that sense of power over their own learning.
Right. Adults and children alike.
Exactly. Right? Teachers love to learn.
Right. Sometimes they forget that.
Yes. And so it's, as long as we're not pushing on them and putting demands on them that are not child-centered and don't spark their own interest in their love of learning, that's when I see all of the cracks in the foundation. But when we are truly honoring that inner love of learning, we can do great things.
Absolutely. I'm really excited as we begin to really accelerate this podcast and invite some amazing guests on to be able to share with, like you were saying, their passion, their purpose, and highlight some of the brilliant work that's being done right now, despite being in the messy middle. And I think it's going to be an amazing ride as we take this journey together. And super grateful that I hit the sister lottery and we get to do this work together, and we get to play in the sandbox. And like we used to play office as kids, and now we're actually doing it in a way where we can, my wish is that we're able to make some global change.
Yes. And really have our legacy as the Herrera sisters like just ripple throughout and recognize that just touching each individual that's on the podcast, each educator, each student that comes within our sphere, and just kind of feel how it magnifies, I think is really exciting. And so with that, we hope that you will share with us anyone who is in the educational field, who's written a book, who as a parent has navigated some interesting pathways. Share with us. We would love to have them on the podcast. We're really excited to kind of round out everyone who is a stakeholder in education.
Absolutely.
I'm totally open to having high school students, college students, well-articulated middle school students on the podcast, so that we can really hear from them. What is working? What is not working? What do they see for the foreseeable future in education? Because there are times when I sit across from a client in therapy and they're just struggling in our current system. And at times I have to say that this isn't the right fit, but it's the best we can do for now. How can we at least make it tolerable so you can walk away with what you need to go through your next phase of life?
Absolutely. And the more that we can create this ripple of impact and really allow each individual to be seen, heard, and valued for the unique, amazing humans that you all are, that's our wish. And I'm excited to be on this journey with you.
Yes, exactly.
Thanks, everybody.
Good to see you.
Thank you for listening, learning, and growing with us here on the Humanize EDU podcast as we reignite the love of learning.
Remember to give us a like and subscribe to hear more. Wishing you a beautiful day on purpose.